Welcome to Sexuality and Female Athletes, Episode 1. I'm Sheri Steiner, the host. And I don't know how you found me because it must have been hard, but glad you're here. Hope I have something to say that you're actually interested in. I did some research once I picked a topic, and by the way, I picked sexuality and female athletes because both of those topics are close to my heart. Being an athlete all my life, I feel like I was born an athlete because I can't remember ever not being an athlete, actually. And I'm over 65. Anyway, the topic of sexuality is interesting because no one wants to talk about it, per se, in an educational way. They just want to talk about it in a somewhat negative way. For example, there's another podcast when I was doing my research. He calls them the alphabet group. Not that he has another word for it, but I think he calls it the alphabet mafia. Anyway, sexuality is a journey, especially for an athlete. And that's why I picked this topic, because athletes are in a unique environment where it's very similar to the home environment, and I'm going to do a whole episode on it. But if you can imagine, maybe some people grew up in a home that wasn't normal per se, but a lot of people grow up in a home with a mom and a dad and maybe some siblings. In a team environment, you've got your coach and maybe director or commissioner or somebody above the coach. And then you've got your other players, which are like siblings. Just like a home environment where you expect your siblings to watch your back. On a team, you expect your teammates to watch your back as well. And so I'm going to talk and go on more in depth on that a little bit later. But right now, I just want to get out the basics so you have an idea, since this is episode 1, where I'm going and what you might expect, even though, hey, I'm old. I can go anywhere, right? Anywhere I want. I don't have any sponsors. I don't have anybody I work for where I have to watch what I say. Nobody can fire me. And quite honestly, I don't need to make money. That's even more of a reason for me to be honest. Let me be honest. I've been watching the WNBA for a couple of months or in the summer, and it's been eye-opening, quite honestly. In fact, I can't even believe all the junk that's going on in the WNBA. And I'm a former basketball player, okay? So let me just give you a little bit of history, and I'll go into it maybe in another episode a little deeper. But when I was growing up, every morning, I took my basketball to the elementary school around the corner, and I played basketball every single morning because I didn't want to be at home in my toxic, verbally abusive environment. I left, and maybe I came back for lunch, maybe not. I tried to stay away as much as possible. But the only other people playing basketball at the elementary school around the corner were guys, okay? I grew up playing basketball with the guys probably all the way until I got in high school, when I was doing other things. When I was young and I didn't have a car, I couldn't really go too far. Yeah, I had a bike and I could bike it somewhere. But the elementary school was close and it was easy for me to walk to. And I grew up playing basketball, not just basketball, football, baseball, all the sports with the guys in the neighborhood. Okay, no girls. There were no girls there except for me. I don't know what the girls were doing because I didn't have any girlfriends. I only had boyfriends. And that issue or that scenario where I'm playing with the guys makes you better, right? I feel like I was born an athlete anyway. My dad could care less what I was doing. He didn't even know where I was, probably. My mom never asked either, and neither one of them were athletes per se. My dad was a lifeguard. Mom did water ballet, but not team sports kind of athletes. I didn't have any support there. I just had the support of the guys in the neighborhood and their families. So they would take me here or there or what have you. And where I'm going with this is I was good. Okay. When you're picking teams as a kid, you pick who you think is good on your team. And I was always picked pretty early in the draw, but I quit playing basketball about sixth grade. I went to a baseball game with one of my boyfriends, and father came up to me and said, hey, he was watching me. He could see I was good. He said, there's a girls' league over in not too far from where I lived. And he gave me the information and told me to get in touch. As I was walking home, I thought, my mom's never going to let me do this. And because she wouldn't let me in the music program at school. That's back when actually music was taught to everybody and it was free back in the 60s. It's not that way anymore. Anyway, so I'm going home and I'm thinking, mom's not going to let me do this. And at that time, I couldn't play with the boys. I know you can now, but I couldn't play with the boys. I wasn't allowed. Anyway, the bottom line was mom actually did contact them for me. And even though it was mid-season, they put me on a team. And that team won the next 11 games straight. Okay, that's how much better I was than everybody else. One player could make a big difference when you're in 5th or 6th grade. Anyway, that whole scenario resonates with me in regard to Caitlin Clark, which is the hot topic right now. And I've been listening to all the garbage surrounding her in the WNBA. And I have a lot to say about it. And I can't believe how they're treating her, number one. And before I go into that area of it, I just want to say that I really love watching Caitlin play. The girl is, not only is she a great player, she's exciting to watch. Okay? The girl shoots from 25 plus feet out, and she's quick. She likes to play up tempo. In other words, she likes to move the ball quickly. She can play and shoot from anywhere. Her passing is unbelievable. I've never seen anybody pass as good as she does. However, I can relate because had somebody taken me under their wing and had I grown up playing basketball, I might have been able to do it as well because I played football with the guys and played quarterbacks. If you're playing quarterback and the guys wanted me to play quarterback because I had a good arm and I was accurate. The same thing would have happened with the basketball, but I'm short and I quit playing basketball because I didn't think there was a future in it for me being 5'4", 5'5". It didn't occur to me back when I didn't have any role models and no internet, no social media, no WNBA to watch, that the shorter gals actually can play on those teams. So anyway, I quit playing. But Caitlin Clark makes me reminisce about what my life could have been like if I played softball in college. It wasn't a total loss, but at that time, there was no Olympics. There was really nowhere to go with softball per se. There were they tried to do a professional softball league, but it didn't go over. It didn't last long. And that was that. Honestly, there was nowhere for someone like me that I think I could have been a great player at whatever. There's just nowhere to go. Anyway, back to Caitlin. Because I don't think I could have ever been as good as her. She had great role models. She had her dad help, her coach. So she had her support of her parents is my point. And then she gets into high school and they're letting her shoot from 25 feet out. Where when I was trying to do that when I was young, in the 60s / early 70s, They wouldn't let me do it, okay? They're making fun of me. They're saying, oh, what the hell are you doing shooting out no man's land? Okay, they couldn't, the coaches, the teachers, everybody was just making fun of me. Did that make me want to play more? No. If they were smart, they should have tried to get me on the basketball team at my high school, but they weren't that smart. Anyway, they haven't been very smart with Caitlin in the WNBA either, honestly. But anyway, back to the coaching scenario, and I want to go into it in more depth because I think nobody, at least all the stuff I'm listening to, all the podcasts and sportscasters and the YouTube stuff, nobody's really talking about the coaches that helped her and allowed her to shoot out there and get good out there. I can't understate how much that has probably helped her. As a coach, I have a master's degree in coaching / athletic administration. I can appreciate that. The coach has to believe in you to let you do it because nobody else is playing that way, right? That's why everybody likes to watch her because guess what? In 28 years since the WNBA has been around, nobody's been interested because there's nothing to watch. There's nothing exciting to watch, I should say. Yeah, they're skilled athletes, but are they exciting to watch? No, they're playing the same old humdrum basketball. Humdrum, boring basketball. They may be skilled under the basket, per se, like Asia Wilson, who has been the MVP 3 years. Let me just say, she's not my MVP. I wouldn't have voted for her because, quite honestly, I think that when the players play on the Olympic team and they're on the world stage and they're playing the national anthem at the gold medal match, that the players should actually put their hand on their heart like they actually love their country. But about half the team didn't do it. I don't understand it. The media didn't play it up like I thought they would because I haven't been watching. I didn't know that the media has no voice anymore. At least, I guess if they want to stay in their position, they don't do anything that's going to cause waves. But again, this might cause some waves, but guess what? There's a problem there. Yeah, in the States, if it were in the States, here in the United States, and they did it, that would have made more sense because somebody would have known what they were doing, maybe, not me. That's someone like me that doesn't pay attention to that stuff, who doesn't watch ABC, NBC, or CBS. Who the hell watches those 3 channels anymore? Who watches live television? Hardly anybody. So whatever point you're trying to make, you're not making it. And that's not the stage to do it. I wouldn't have voted for her for that reason. Anyway, I did a Instagram post about it, but nobody's seen it because I don't have any followers yet. I'm brand new. And quite honestly, nobody knows who the hell I am, nor do they care. But I'm going to do my thing anyway because I'm 65 plus. I'm retired. And quite honestly, I need something to be involved with to keep my mind fresh, to keep my passions alive, to keep me involved, let's call it, in the world, in something I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about this. So even though I'm jig-jagging all across the board here, I apologize. But let me get back to Caitlin a little bit and how her upbringing resonates with me. I can see a familiarity in her background and my background. And I'm from a whole different world than her. But let me just say that if I were in her shoes, when you're shooting from 25 plus feet, you've got to put some body into it, right? So you're jumping off the ground and you expect to come down on your feet. And when somebody runs into you while you're in the air and knocks you to the ground, not like what happened in the playoff game. And no foul was called. I don't get that. Why, number one, why no foul was called? And number two, that's not an isolated incident. I'm going to go into more detail, but there's at least 4 or 5 blatant fouls where Caitlin Clark is knocked to the ground just because they're being bullies. Okay? And I'm not sure where this bully junk came from, but I don't like watching it. I don't want to know who the biggest bully is on that court. I don't care who the bully is. I want to see someone with some actual skills. And when they're displaying their bully skills, when they're doing things they shouldn't be doing to other players, that just tells me they didn't grow up learning the ABCs of what it is to be an athlete. Because it's not about being a bully. It's about not wanting to win unless it's done fairly. And quite honestly, getting poked in the eye, getting knocked to the ground, and by the way, she's been knocked to the ground when the ball's not even in play. That just tells me there's a big problem, especially when the league doesn't do anything about it and the refs don't call it, and she's getting called technicals for minor junk. Come on. I just don't get it. So anyway, I started picking apart the WNBA, okay? I am pretty analytical. I went in and doing research on the WNBA, and it's not a transparent organization. The way it's structured is unbelievably one-sided, okay? The NBA owns the WNBA. The commissioner of the WNBA, who was appointed by the NBA commissioner, they don't even publicize what her salary is. I couldn't find it anywhere. So if you know what it is, please leave it in the comments. I'd like to know what that lady makes. Okay, she didn't want the job originally, from what I read. She turned him down 2, 3, 4, 5 times, whatever. She didn't want the damn job. She went from not wanting the job and turning it down over and over to taking the job. So what does that tell you? That tells you he made her an offer that she couldn't refuse, right? So I want to know what it was. I want to know what that lady makes. Because he's making, according to what I found online, the NBA commissioner's making $10 million a year. I want to know what she's making. Because the players aren't making hardly anything. Caitlin Clark, as the number 1 draft pick this year, is making $76,000. And I think it's a $338,000 4-year deal or some shit like that. The number 1 pick on the NBA is making $10 million a year. Okay? So you got NBA over here, NBA number 1 draft pick making $10 million, and you got Caitlin Clark over here making $76,000. Does that sound like it's equitable to you? They say that's because the NBA or WNBA has never made any money. I want to see the books. I'm an full charge bookkeeper, trained by a CPA. I want to see why they're not making any money for 28 years and they're still keeping them in business. Okay? Nobody does that. There must be some benefit there to the NBA, to the owners of the teams, to everybody but the players, because you don't keep a business around for 28 years and not make money. You just don't do it. I've had 3 or 4 or 5 businesses that I've directly ran in some capacity, okay? Small businesses, not big businesses, but small businesses, family-owned businesses, my own business. You can't stay in business if you're not making money. And if the NBA is subsidizing your stay, let's call it, or your existence, I suspect they're using the loss, whatever loss the WNBA is creating. I suspect they're using that loss to offset their earnings in some fashion on their taxes, I'm guessing. There's got to be a plus for them somewhere. So that's the only thing I can come up with. So if that's supposedly they're making billions of dollars in the NBA. So if they're making billions, they need a tax write-off. And anyway, enough said. I'm going to dig deeper. I'm going to post the WNBA hierarchy. You can't, okay, I went online, tried to do some research. I can't pull up pictures or bios or anything on most of the people underneath the commissioner in the WNBA. I want to know who they are. I want to know how much they're making. I want some transparency. Because guess what? The players aren't making any damn money. And I'm all for women making, doesn't have to be equal to the men, but it has to be something that's fair. And guess what? $76,000 for the number one draft pick that's bringing you tons and tons of viewers and money at the gate, etc. That's just not, that's not fair. And that doesn't make sense to me. And that's it for today. If hopefully I made some sense to you. Hopefully you tune in for episode 2 and have a great day. Bye now.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to check out our various social media channels, including my YouTube channel at Coach Steiner. In the next episode, we'll discuss roles, rules, and relationships, families, and teams compared, including how the unconditional love found in families mirrors the loyalty, camaraderie, passion, and love that permeate female sports teams. Thank you again for joining me. Stay positive and remember the strong survive.